The storm had been raging for 3 nights and 3 days, a relentless fury that seemed less like weather and more like punishment. The hills of Avernal groaned under thunder, the valleys drowned in black rivers, and through that spectral rain rode a solitary knight. His armor was old, its silver dulled by rust, his cloak soaked to the bone, yet he rode with the grim certainty of one who does not flee from damnation but toward it. Each hoofbeat upon the flooded path echoed like a heartbeat in a tomb. They said the road to St. Leontius Abbey was cursed, that no birds nested near its gates, that no grass grew along its walls, that those who sought its relic never returned unmarked. But Sir Corvin de Lys was not seeking miracles. He was seeking judgment. When he reached the abbey's gate, lightning revealed the crucifix above it, a weathered carving of St. Leontius himself, once a warrior monk, now the patron of the damned. His eyes, sculpted in stone, looked down upon Corvin as if recognizing an old sin. The gatekeeper, an elderly monk, peered out through the downpour. "Who dares ride under heaven's wrath?" Corvin lowered his hood, revealing eyes as cold as iron. "A knight in need of sanctuary," he said, "and confession." The gates groaned open, unwillingly. Inside, the abbey was a world of echoes. Corridors lined with burning candles that seemed too weak for the shadows they fought. Statues of saints loomed like judges from the dark. The scent of incense hung heavy, mingling with damp stone and something else beneath, iron, faint and metallic. Father Marcellus awaited him near the cloister, a tall man draped in black robes. His voice carried no warmth, only restraint. "We take in pilgrims," he said, "not ghosts." "I was both once," Corvin replied. Marcellus studied him. "And now?" "Now," said Corvin, removing his gauntlet and placing a sealed scroll in the priest's hand. "I am Rome's penitent. My sins are to be absolved here or nowhere." The scroll bore the papal seal. Orders were orders. The abbey would accept him. The monks led Corvin to a narrow cell. He hung his sword by the door, but its presence seemed to hum against the stone, whispering through memory. The blade was inscribed in Latin, "Lux mea in tenebris," my light in darkness. But the knight had long forgotten what light was. At midnight, unable to sleep, Corvin wandered to the chapel. There, before the altar, stood the reliquary of St. Leontius, a silver chalice that held the saint's blood. The candlelight shimmered through the crimson fluid, casting ghostly reflections upon the vaulted ceiling. The monks said the blood had miraculously remained uncorrupted for centuries. But as Corvin approached, he saw that the liquid was no longer red. It was black, thick as oil, glistening like a wound that refused to heal. He knelt. His armor creaked softly. "You were a warrior once," he whispered, "like me." The storm outside rumbled. "I killed for faith. You died for it. Tell me, was heaven any kinder to you?" He bowed his head. The candle beside him trembled, its flame bending sharply, as if something unseen had exhaled. Then before his eyes a single drop of that black blood rose from the chalice, against gravity, and fell upon his armored hand. The metal hissed. Steam rose. Corvin stared, his heart hammering. And in the flicker of the dying candle he saw it, a reflection not of himself but of a woman. Her eyes were kind and terrible at once, her lips forming a name he hadn't heard in 10 years. "Corvin," he stumbled back, breath stolen from him, but when he looked again, the chalice was still, the flame steady. Only the mark remained upon his gauntlet, a black stain shaped like a tear. Morning brought gray light and the uneasy silence of men who prayed for something they did not believe in. Father Marcellus summoned Corvin to the refectory. The other monks avoided his eyes, whispering as he passed. Rumors of strange noises, of voices in the chapel, had already spread. The priest wasted no time. "The relic was found disturbed this morning," Marcellus said, voice thin, its seal undone. "Tell me why you came here truly." Corvin met his gaze. "Because the saint's blood called me." "Blasphemy," the priest spat. "No. Corvin said calmly. Confession. He placed his sword upon the table between them and spoke. He told Marcellus of the crusade of Dalvera, of the city he had burned in the name of purity, of the convent that stood at its gates, a sanctuary of nuns who healed both Christian and infidel alike. And he told him of Sister Celian. She was the only light I'd known in that forsaken land, he said quietly. They called her witch, heretic, angel. I called her salvation. Marcellus listened in stony silence as Corvin's voice cracked. When Rome decreed the purge, I obeyed, he continued. I led the fire myself. I told myself obedience was virtue, but when the smoke cleared, he swallowed. She was still praying. He closed his eyes, and I heard her say, God forgive them, even him. A silence heavier than sin filled the room. Then Corvin reached into his cloak and placed upon the table a small melted crucifix. I found this in the ashes, her hand still clutching it. Look closer. The priest did, and saw faintly engraved upon its base a symbol, the haloed cross of Saint Leontius. She bore his mark, Corvin whispered. Not as faith, as blood. She was his descendant. The church burned her to protect a lie. Father Marcellus recoiled. Impossible. Corvin's expression was hollow. I burned the saint's bloodline, and his spirit will not forgive it. That night the storm returned with fury. The bells tolled thrice, though no monk dared pull the rope. When they entered the chapel, they found Father Marcellus dead before the altar, his eyes black, his mouth sealed with wax. And beside him lay the relic half empty. Corvin fell to his knees, shaking. The black blood on his gauntlet pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. From the shadows a voice whispered, one sin for one soul. He turned and saw her. Sister Celian stood at the chapel's entrance, her white veil soaked in rain, her face luminous in the candlelight. She looked not like a ghost, but like the memory of grace. Why did you come here, Corvin? She asked softly. To beg forgiveness. Then why do you still carry your sword? He looked down and saw that his sword was unsheathed, though he had not drawn it. The candlelight shifted, the relic trembled, and she was gone. Only her crucifix lay upon the steps, wet with rain or tears. By dawn, madness had taken hold of the abbey. The monks refused to enter the chapel. The walls wept moisture that smelled of blood. Holy water turned black in the fonts. Corvin roamed the corridors, haunted by whispers that came from the stones themselves. He saw faces in the windows, hands pressed against the glass, shadows moving where no one stood. Each night he dreamed of fire, of Celian's face turning to ash, of his sword sinking into something not human, of the saint himself watching in silence. On the third night, the whisper returned. From beneath the floor. He followed it, descending the spiral staircase into the crypt of Saint Leontius. The air grew colder, the torches dimmer, until at last he reached a great stone door carved with the words, Pax in lumine, veritas in sanguine, peace in light, truth in blood. He pushed it open. Inside lay a tomb of marble, and upon it a glass coffin. Within the coffin rested a body, a woman's body, untouched by time. Her skin pale, her lips faintly smiling. Celian. He fell to his knees. No. The chalice of Saint Leontius rested upon her chest, full once more with dark living blood. Then her eyes opened. You carried my ashes here, she said. You buried me beneath his name. He shook his head. I sought to sanctify you. You sought to silence guilt, she replied. The church gave you absolution, I give you truth. She rose, weightless, the chalice hovering between them. The blood inside began to glow, forming shapes. Visions. He saw the past. The saint, Leontius, leading crusaders through fire. He saw a woman, Celian, dragged before him, accused of heresy. He saw Leontius plunge his sword into her chest, whispering, "For purity's sake." And then, Rome called him saint. Corvin understood. "The church built a lie upon her grave, and you burned it again," she said, "twice dead, once by faith, once by love." Tears burned his eyes. "Then let me die for you, a third time." "No," she whispered, touching his face. "Live, but live with what you burned." The chalice tilted. He drank. Flames erupted through his veins. The crypt shook, dust falling from the ceiling. The statues cracked. The abbey above wailed with thunder as light burst through the cracks in the tomb. The monks awoke to screaming. When they reached the crypt, the door was sealed by molten stone. But in the chapel above, the relic had vanished, replaced by a new statue, a knight kneeling before a veiled woman, both carved from black marble. The knight's eyes wept blood. The woman's hands rested on his head in blessing. At dawn, the storm ceased. The candle before the statue burned pure white. The monks renamed the abbey, no longer St. Leontius, but St. Celian's Rest. And when the wind passes through the cloisters at night, they say you can hear a man's voice. Steady, sorrowful, eternal. "Forgive me, my saint, my sin."